welcome. We're excited to chat with you today and get to learn a little bit more about you, and been looking forward to it. And first of all, where are you right now? Where do you live?
I am from Streator, Illinois.
In
So,
Illinois. Okay.
I'll say north central Illinois, is where I'm from.
Okay, awesome. Good. Well, I'm in Oregon, so we're opposite, but thanks to technology, we're here together today. So yeah. Um, so I read the article that we have about you on our Get Back Up website, and a very inspiring story. And I'm excited to learn more. Can you just tell us a little bit more about cerebral palsy and maybe some of the challenges that come with it and different symptoms?
Sure. So cerebral palsy it varies by the person. It is different for everybody, but over 80% of people who have cerebral palsy are spastic, which just means that you have extremely tight muscles that are going to resist being stretched. And so for me, I fall into that spastic category where, I do a lot of stretching every day just for mobility, and I've never let cerebral palsy stop me from doing things, but it definitely presents its challenges, and I definitely have to be more cautious about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it than your average person, making sure I
Yeah.
stretch and taking my baclofen every day that helps with that spasticity is all part of just dealing with it on the day to day. So
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you for telling us a little bit more about it. And what have been your biggest challenges with cerebral palsy?
Um, lately, just fitness in general has been quite a journey for me, and it can be challenging at times because you want to push your body and you want to physically do more and go faster, but then sometimes your body reminds you, like, hey, Kristina, the cerebral palsy is still here, so you have to sit down now and give yourself a chance to rest and not just be a crazy person who goes to the gym, every day and just thinks that I can just ignore when I'm tired or tight or whatever. Um, yeah, it's always a challenge living with cerebral palsy, but like I said, I try not to let it get in the way. I try not to let it stop me from doing the things that I enjoy. So
Awesome. I love that. It's very inspiring. And then this is something that presents itself right away, right? When you're born.
yeah, for me,
Yeah.
um, I'm a twin.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so I think probably the reason why I was diagnosed so early in life with cerebral palsy is that I had a twin who was doing more than I was, faster than I was, and my parents were noticing that I wasn't, hitting those milestones like my sister. I mean, she was practically walking and I was still only rolling in one direction, and that's when they realized that there was, something going on and that I needed more support. So um, we got me diagnosed fairly early on compared to what some of my other friends with CP, compared to when they got diagnosed. And then CP, depending on the person, it can happen, before birth. It can happen during birth, or it can happen after. We really don't know when that actually happened for me, but like I said, I was fortunate enough to be diagnosed early and start in early intervention physical therapy and different services to really give me the best quality of life. And the physical therapy I've had is probably one of the key reasons why I'm doing all the things that I've done today, because I've gotten the proper support throughout the years.
Yeah. Yeah, that is probably an advantage that they were able to pinpoint that early and get you started. So yeah. And so what was your childhood like then with CP, and what were some of the biggest challenges as a kid?
As a kid, honestly, I guess I was fortunate enough that I didn't really think about having CP too much. I mean, I knew I was different, but I had a really good group of friends, and especially a twin sister who was my biggest cheerleader, who really, pushed me and wanted me to be involved with them and didn't see me differently because of my that. I don't think I really saw myself any differently. I knew that I was going to have to try harder, and work harder to participate in some of these things as a kid. But like I've said previously, I tried not to let it get in my way. And the support system that I had was a really, really big part of that, of me being able to be involved in things like t-ball as a young kid. And I did dance for a while. I mean, I really tried to do anything else that a normal kid was doing because I had a sister that I wanted to keep up with and participate in those activities with as well.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And I know you have AFOs now, of course, but how old were you when you got your first any kind of brace, or what did they do first to help you with your mobility?
Oh gosh. Some of these are questions for my mother.
Okay.
And I don't think she's as far as when I got my first AFOs, I would say I was probably around a year old, maybe under.
Oh, wow.
I mean, looking at my first pair of braces, they're the only ones I've really kept. I've kind of donated or recycled the other ones. They're pretty small, so I would say that, yeah, around one or so I got my first pair. We started with plastic hinged braces, so those they don't lock the ankle completely. They give you a little bit more flexibility, but
Okay.
at the time my posture was so terrible that the hinges we decided weren't the right thing for me, and we actually ended up going in and locking those hinges to give me less flexibility and more support for my legs.
Okay. And once you got those, though, did that improve your mobility quite a bit? I mean, I guess you were one, you didn't know, so, but from what you've heard, or
From what I've experienced, I think braces have definitely helped. I definitely notice that I am not able to do as much even now if I don't have braces on. I mean, they're definitely a stability for me, and they allow me to move around safely without tripping over myself too much. So
yeah, yeah. I love that you saved your first ones. That's awesome. And then how long ago did you get your first Allard then? Because it's fairly recently, right, that you switched?
it feels recently, and when I talk about them, I call them my new braces, but it's funny because they're not really new at this point. I've had them now for, I think it was about 16 months. It was like 16 months yesterday since I went and
Okay.
picked them up and put them on for the first time.
I would call that new. That sounds new.
Yeah. Well, and when it's completely different than anything you've ever had before, it is a new thing, and
Hmm.
they're still new. I'm still working my way in, and had I joined from my computer, I would have had some pictures for you guys, but I'll show the Facebook Live as best I can from my phone. This is what
Okay.
I did with.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Okay.
Plastic, very stiff. Pretty much locks your ankles, so it's a support thing, but it doesn't give you full use of your calves, or really any flexibility of your foot. So that's
Yeah.
bad. And then right now I have a toe off 2.0, which is
Yeah.
a very different thing. It's I always keep them in my shoes because if you lay them down, you can step on them and break them, and we don't want to do that. Um, but obviously, this is very different than what I had before. It's got the strut that goes up the side, and it's just support on the front of the brace as opposed to, locking the whole ankle and not giving you much flexibility there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And tell us kind of what led you then to switching over to Allard. I got to read a little bit about it, but it's quite a story. So what caused the switch? And we're glad you did. Welcome to the Allard family.
It's been a long journey. I mean, it's been about 3 years now that I've been back in physical therapy, um, working on posture, working on ankle flexibility, and we really didn't even consider using a brace from Allard several years ago because I needed more support. I needed that, plastic, like molded to you support around my ankle. And then my orthotist has said, he goes, in the future, he goes, I'd really like for you to get in some physical therapy for one and work on that ankle flexibility. But in the future, I think something like know it then, but what he was holding up was the toe off that I'm wearing right now. He's like, if we could work on ankle flexibility and we can get you stronger, this would be something to strive towards for your travels and some of the other things that you're doing. He said that it would be supportive, but yet, allow me for more range of motion and more muscle growth, just to help me keep up with all the crazy goals that I have for myself. And I was
Yeah.
like, and I at that time, I was like, well, I think that's going to be, definitely not something we try for a while, but I really do like the idea of something that lightweight. And so I ended up going to physical therapy, and we worked on ankle flexibility. I was super hunched over before. I had tight hamstrings, tight back, tight hips, just was kind of a mess at that point. I was just living my life. I had started my teaching career. I was focusing on everything at that point,
Yeah.
except for taking care of myself, except for the things that really mattered. But after about a year and a half, I guess, of really hard work, I went back to look at getting new braces, and he checked my ankle flexibility, and he's like, I think maybe it's time to try something different. How do you feel about moving into the Allard braces now? And I was like, that's not what I expected. Let me message my physician, because I didn't want to make any rash
Yeah.
decisions,
Yeah.
and not be able to adjust to that. But we decided that, it was definitely something we wanted to try. And I worked my way into them super slowly too. People don't realize when you go from, if you're going from a plastic brace to, say, a newer plastic brace, they're going to be stiff, and you might wear them a couple hours for the first couple of days to break them in. But going from plastic to an Allard brace was a totally different thing. You're learning how to walk again, kind of.
Yeah.
Because a completely different set of muscles. You suddenly have this flexibility in your ankle that you never had before, and your body doesn't really know what to do with that. So I actually started out only wearing the Allard braces for an hour or two every day, because it was that much of a change to get my body adjusted from one to the other.
Wow, that's amazing. So you had to go through so much just to even get into your first ones. And so and I'm glad you have such an awesome team. So from them saying, "Hey, we should try this," to getting your first one, how long of a process was that through physical therapy and all that?
Well, I mean, I've been back in physical therapy now for about 3 years, and I've had the Allard braces for about a year and a half.
Okay, so
So
about
I
a
guess
year and a half of work then.
I would say it was probably a year and a half of work from when we first looked at them and said, hey, this might be cool for the future, to now actually being able to wear them on a daily basis. So yeah, not a short journey. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's a short journey, but when you're learning how to walk with a totally different group of muscles and discovering a totally new gait, there are days where it feels like it's taking forever.
Yeah. And the harder you work for something, you're usually more grateful for it. So I'm sure you're probably extra appreciative of all that they do for you. And that's amazing. And what would you say that whole process of having to go through all that and work for it, what did you take away from that the most?
I mean, I would tell you patience, but that would be a lie, because I'm still not very patient.
It is a good lesson in patience. Yeah.
Definitely, and I guess I'm proud of myself. I've got to say that I'm proud that I have stuck it out and worked through some of that to make the Allard braces work. Because starting out a year and a half ago, even then, I was like, okay, this is something totally new, but it might not work like we want it to. I'm not going to know until I jump in and give it a try. So I'm glad that it worked out. We are actually looking into maybe a different Allard brace now though, because after a year and a half, we're finding that my ankles still need a little bit more stability. So instead of the toe off, like a blue rocker or something along those lines to give me even more stability where I need it. Because one of the things that they talked about in the blog that I got featured in over the summer was I do a lot of exercising, 5Ks, swimming laps at the pool, and all those things, of course, require stability and a lot of effort on my part, looking for ways to give me a little bit more stability and a little more safety so I'm not tripping over myself while I'm trying to, you know, go faster and faster as I'm doing these 5Ks. So
Yeah. It's definitely a learning curve. You just got to keep trying and find what's best for you. So yeah. So how have your Allard AFOs compared to the other braces that you've worn, and kind of what's the biggest difference that you've seen in your life with your Allard AFOs?
they're definitely lighter weight, a lot more flexible, and a lot more breathable. And this might sound a little funny, but I was just so excited that they made part of these braces washable.
Yeah.
Because if you ever had a plastic brace, I mean, you can wipe them out, but they're plastic with a bunch of padding inside, and it's kind of restrictive and not super breathable. So when I found out that I could take the padding off the front of the brace and go throw it in the washing machine, I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. You know, they're
Yeah.
finally making part of it washable.
It is a plus for sure. Well, good. I'm glad you appreciate that. And all right, if you can fill in the blank, my Allard AFOs give me blank. What word describes how you feel about your Allard AFOs?
I guess I would say confidence, more muscle. I mean, I have muscle on my calves that I haven't had before, and that's definitely a confidence boost for me. I've never, you know, looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Oh, look at those leg muscles." So, it's just nice to have been able to build up to something. You know, there was an improvement that I didn't really expect. I mean, knew that I was getting something that was going to be more flexible, more lightweight, but I didn't expect to gain more muscle and more confidence as well.
I like that word, confidence. That is a good word. And you'd mentioned so you swim, and you mentioned your 5Ks too. So congrats on all of your races. Have you had a favorite one that you did?
You know, in the area, we kind of have the same circuit, I'll say, every year, the same group of 5Ks that people like to do. I'm always the fastest on the flattest course, which makes sense, right? But it's usually
You're doing it.
also
You're doing it. Keep
it's
keep talking. I just got to get a barking dog off the couch. Keep talking. I'm right here.
so
My, there
fast.
we go.
And
Here.
August is a 5K in Winona, Illinois, and it's always super duper hot because it's August, but it's the
Yeah.
flattest course. At that point, I've been doing 5Ks since like early May, and I've worked out all summer, so that always ends up being my fastest times. I did actually end up finishing in under an hour back in August, which I was super pumped about. I think
Good
it took
job.
like 58 and a half minutes or something to finish that.
It's amazing.
But 3 years ago, when I first started doing 5Ks, it would take me like an hour and 15 minutes. So
Look at that. That's awesome. Competing with yourself. I love it. That's the real competition.
well,
So
you know, and I still managed to be last or second to last. So the only competition really is myself,
it
but I'm
is.
okay with it. You know, um, you have to look at life that way sometimes. I mean, we can get stuck comparing ourselves to others all day long, but really the only person we should be competing with is ourselves.
1,000%. And then you got to think about the people that didn't even show up to the race. So you were ahead of all of them too.
Correct.
So the ones that stayed at home. So, and I also see you're a high school Spanish teacher. I love that. Muy bien. And you did your master's in Spain, is that right?
Correct. So it was supposed to be a 2 summer in Spain masters dealio. It ended up
So cool.
it ended up being one summer in Spain because COVID happened during the second scheduled summer of that program.
Oh,
So
wow.
I actually got to do some and got to feel a little bit like my students and try that out. And it was an interesting experience, certainly doing classes online. But that summer in Spain was one of the best I've had. I made a lot of friends. I learned a lot of stuff, and I did more walking that summer than I ever thought I was going to. I think math and I clocked like now I'm gonna forget what the number was. I had done the math about the miles that I walked that summer, and it was like probably 300 or 400 miles that I walked while I was there, and that was in my old.
That's amazing. Oh, wow. Wow.
I just think about what would I have been doing had I had an Allard brace back at that point in time. And it would be interesting to see now, to go back and travel and see how different it would be in the new support that I have.
Have you taken a trip since you've gotten your Allards then yet?
No.
Or have one planned?
I have one scheduled for this summer. Just hoping.
Where are you going?
Just hoping that everything goes off without a hitch this time. We are hoping to make it back to Spain.
Oh, good.
Of course, that trip that I planned in 2020, got canceled, and then did some video classes. Then 2021, they still didn't have travel cleared over to Spain. 2022, I had planned to go, and one of my travel buddies ended up getting sick, and we canceled again. So this will be our third time trying to plan this trip. So hopefully, third time is a charm.
Yes, third time's a charm.
Back there and do some sightseeing and explore and kind of make up for last time, make up for the years that we didn't get to go. So.
Yeah. Well, good. I got to follow you so I can see your pictures and see how it goes. And I think you'll be walking circles around all your friends this time. So I know it's coming. And I bet you're such an inspiration to your students that you teach. How much of your journey do you share with them?
So I teach high school, so the things that I share are hit or miss. I feel like if I taught elementary, they would maybe be a little more curious and have more questions. But with this month being Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, they've definitely had more questions for me in that regards, just because I've had some Fridays where on Jean Day we can wear a t-shirt, and I've worn green, and I had a shirt on last week that said, with a little sombrero that said Nacho Average Cerebral Palsy Warrior. And I love that. And I got some questions about that from some kids that didn't know that cerebral palsy was what I had, and they were asking about it, and I was like, yeah, this month is the awareness month, and the color is green, and so it's t-shirt day, so I thought, it's the Friday before spring break, why not? And then the kids made the whole connection about Breaking Bad and how one of the actors on Breaking Bad has cerebral palsy, and we had this whole, just kind of out of the blue conversation about CP, and to hear some of the kids' reactions and to have one of them say to me, well, I think it's pretty amazing all that you do, and that one of them said that they had seen me do a 5K and thought, like, man, I'm just here standing throwing color at you on this color run, like I don't even want to, and here you are doing it. So it was cool to hear one of them admit that and be like, yeah, I think you're pretty awesome with the things that you do. And it's like, oh, they do care. Teenagers, sometimes they're not going to tell you when they think something's cool most of the time. So when they do, you really have to appreciate that they're being honest with you and showing you that they're not too cool to give their teacher a compliment. So
yeah. Well, I'm sure they're inspired by you. I know sometimes it's hard for people to ask. They don't want to ask. So it was great that you were able to open up that conversation and talk about that. And I love that. And what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite quote or motto that gets you through hard times? Or
oof, that's quite a question. I guess my mantra, I guess you should say, is just being better than I was yesterday. And I'm always in competition with myself, not with anybody else. That's kind of my goal, is just to
I
continue
love that.
getting better. And I am my own worst critic. I really could probably be easier on myself sometimes, and I think I have a physical therapist and a lot of family and friends that would agree with that. But my personality just is kind of what helps me to keep pushing. I'm generally a very outgoing person, and I like a good challenge. So
Good. I love it. That's good advice. And that kind of is my next question as well, but maybe that will just be the same answer. But what advice would you give to others that are maybe struggling with mobility impairments or other challenges or physical challenges in general?
I I guess I would just say to keep working at it, and you can have a pity party, because I've had plenty, but you just don't want to camp out and live there.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to have those bad days, but then ideally you use those to pick up and move on and keep going. And you sometimes use your anger to be really, really productive about something. If you're frustrated, if something's not working for you, you put that anger into reaching out to someone and saying, hey, this isn't working. What do you think? How can we solve this problem? Instead of just staying stuck there, frustrated. But, I will say my support system they've helped get me out of some ruts too. If I'm in a bad mood, I've got people sending me text messages going, hey, you need to take a minute, slow down, and stop being so hard on yourself. Or, and so that all helps too. I mean, I can sit here and tell people to push on forever and ever, but you've got to have that support system too sometimes to remind you how far you've come and why you've got to keep doing that.
I love that. That's all really good advice. And people can read your story on our website, getbackuptoday.com, so they can go find and read a little more about your story there. And also, where can people follow you and maybe learn more about your incredible journey and your story that's still going?
I will have to go back and post some links on it in the comments.
Okay, perfect.
They can find me on Facebook. It's just Kristina with a K, McCormick, McCormick. I'm not really on Instagram, so I'm not going to give out my information for that, just because I'd be afraid somebody would message me and I wouldn't see it until a while later. My blog is walkingmywayto a 10k.weebly.com. Someday I'll do a 10K. Right now I'm just working on 5Ks, but that was the blog name I came up with. They can find me there. I'll post that link in the comments. And then, although we're on hiatus right now, my best friend and I were running a radio show for a while called the CP Chronicles.
Oh, cool.
That is through Facebook Live. So I'll drop also the link to the CP Chronicles in the comments here if anybody wants to check that out and watch some old episodes. We don't have a return date as of yet. I just finished a master's degree, and my co-host is busy as well, so we're just trying to get some life things in order, and hopefully come back here in the summer or early fall when we feel like we have some time to dedicate to it, so we can do things we want with it.
Perfect. We'll look forward to it. Looks like Jennifer posted your blog there. And yeah, if you also want to, maybe if you leave it in the comments, that would be great, where we can access that. So yes. Well, thank you so much. I learned so much today, and I know the people watching learned so much too. And just a very inspiring story and great advice, and just about competing with ourselves and just not giving up. So thank you so much for sharing your amazing story with us, and I'm excited to follow you and just keep seeing where you're going. So it was so wonderful to meet you, Kristina, and I will hopefully talk to you again soon.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much, and keep up the great work. You're awesome.
Thank
you.
Have
a great day, and thanks everybody for watching. Bye.
Bye.